This is Jonathan Ferguson, the Keeper of Firearms Artillery at the Royal Armouries Museum in the UK, which houses a collection of thousands of iconic weapons from throughout history. And on this episode, as the battle to defend Super Earth continues and the fall of Malevelon Creek is fresh in our minds, we're looking at some more weapons from Helldivers 2.
Oh, it is like a Quake lightning gun.
Quake lightning gun that makes bugs explode.
Well, if you can hit something with actual lightning, it may not explode, but they're not going to enjoy it.
If you like this kind of content, make sure to subscribe and let us know in the comment section down below what future episodes you'd like to see. Right, all Helldivers to Hellpods, as it's over to Jonathan.
Right, this is a bit of a Chiappa Rhino situation we have going on here, as well as a bloodied cape. But some weird stuff going on with the hammer there. Well, I think it's working. It's just, it doesn't have much travel. It's just kind of limply flapping. A number of times we've queried, or I have queried, revolvers in science fiction. Pretty conventional. The cylinder's rotating really high up, and it looks to me like the sight would get in the way of reloading, although it doesn't seem to. There's a front sight, and I don't know why. Just look at any modern red dot sight. You don't need the thing at the front. But we've got to have our Magnum Space Revolver, of course, in a game like this. Very bulky. There's a lot going on at the front. And I think artists are concerned that if you don't bulk out a revolver, it looks old-fashioned. You know, little spindly revolver barrel doesn't really fit the vibe. So you want it to be big and square, like a big muzzle weight / ejector shroud. But that's excessively chunky. We can assume some lightweight materials to make up for that, of course, but you've still got to holster this. The thing that makes it particularly Rhino-esque, other than the angles, is that barrel in line with the bottom chamber of the cylinder. Is he a robot? Or does he just have a robot arm?
He's a veteran.
Oh.
It's like the Starship Troopers. Mobile infantry made me the man I am today.
Infantry, sir.
Good for you. Mobile infantry made me the man I am today.
Oh dear. We've got some interesting ejection going on. It looks like we've got a stream of links coming out the left side, but the cartridge case is somehow coming back and ejecting out the right side. So we've got a right-hand feed, right-hand ejection, which doesn't really make any sense. You could achieve it mechanically, I think, but I don't know why you would. Nor do links need to eject with that amount of force. There's no case head to get hold of and spin out of the gun. Links are normally just pushed out of the side of the gun, sometimes with a bit of force, but those are ejecting like cases, basically, and they're ejecting from the same side and location that the case should eject. I'm not getting a particular gun that this is based on. It's a nice extrapolation of what current sort of assault machine guns are. Short, compact, that sort of chunky aesthetic, quite a stylized, low detail looking carry handle of a weird shape as well. I think it's there more for visual interest than for any practical purpose.
It's not a very high caliber weapon, so you can see if when I'm shooting some of these robots, the rounds are actually pinging off the sloped armor. Very frustrating when there's a bunch of them coming at you, but now that I'm away from it, I can appreciate that it looks cool.
It does look cool, and it's a good visual indicator as well that you're not doing what you want to be doing.
One of the features that we didn't get to touch on last time was the ability to change the rate of fire of the machine guns. Does that have any sort of relevance in reality?
So the minigun has, I think, typically 2 switchable rates of fire because the rate of ammo consumption is so high, and I guess there's concern over wear as well. High rate guns like that are switchable to some extent. The Browning automatic rifle 1982 A2 model did away with the semi-auto function and went to slow and high rates of fire. One of our 2, because we're very greedy, Maxim prototype machine guns from 1884 as a variable rate as well. So at the very inception of the machine gun, the idea was you could go as slow as 1 round per minute, and then you had notches on this lever all the way up to fast, which was 500 rounds per minute. Can't recall any in-service LMGs, GPMGs that do it. But even as I say that, someone's probably going to think of one and put it in the comments. Oh, wow. That's some spectacular case ejection there. Those are huge cases. A great big toggle lock and a classic stripper clip loading. Now, I'm not quite sure how that clip is so energetically just pinging itself up and out of the way. There doesn't seem to be a mechanism to facilitate that. I think it's getting stripped off as you insert the rounds. That's not typical. If that's what's happening, that's not typical. Your classic Enfield Mauser, the clip stays in place in the guide. You push in the rounds, then you either bang the clip out of the way with the bolt, or you remove the clip manually. This almost seems like a hybrid between something like a Garand and a true stripper clip system. It's not that this wouldn't work. If there's some kind of a pull to capture that top round, just the clip system is interesting. Old school, we've got the crew served aspect there as well, almost like a Bofors anti-aircraft system. We've got a guy slamming in the clips there. And then there's the toggle lock. And then there's also the form factor of this weapon. So of those 4 possible inspirations or callbacks or references, I've grabbed 2 things. Now this actually would cover 2 of them. This is the US Pedersen rifle. This is a Vickers Pedersen, Vickers made. And it has a toggle lock, much like you saw there. For those who don't understand what I'm bleating on about with toggles, it operates like your arm joint. Famously in the Luger, it's inside the Maxim gun and it's inside the Winchester rifle as well. And the Pedersen utilizes exactly the same thing. There's that toggle joint. It's a pivoted, a hinged joint. The great big flappy thing comes flapping up into your face every time you shoot. And when you're empty, you know you're empty because there's a great big steel wall in front of your face. This ticks another box for this gun as well because it does have a charger guide. So you insert the clip, charge the magazine, remove that clip, and then let the toggle go. We go a bit more energetically than that. And it loads your first round. And every time you pull the trigger, this toggle does its thing. So that I thought was relevant and it's historic and interesting. This was the rival to the M1 Garand. Long story short, the Garand was the superior rifle and it won the trial. Then, in terms of the form factor of this weapon, we have this absolute beast, which makes a brief appearance in my Bullpup Firearms book. It's not British per se, it's Australian. So this is Russell Shepherd Robinson, who designed all sorts of crazy but clever stuff. And it's a shoulder-fired gun with the action at the back, much like this Helldivers autocannon thing. Double pistol grips. The sights, one sight's missing, and the other one's bent on this. I'm guessing someone dropped it due to its extreme weight. And it's 50 caliber. And it's the SR9, for those of you keeping score. We showed the SR11 on our channel the other week. And you now I need to Jedi mind trick or neuralize you all into forgetting it, because I'd quite like to cover it in a video. But I could not resist showing you this because it's pretty similar. And it does in fact, or did in fact, load from the top with its feed device intact. But if you press that catch, we have a lid. So you can feed this thing from the top and it ejects out the side. And I need to put this down because it's very heavy.
Here's an even bigger version of the weapon. It's a Sentry gun.
Oh, yeah.
As if the previous autocannon wasn't big enough.
Exact same system scaled up and looking much more Luger-like. The way that toggle wraps over the top of the gun looks just like the Luger.
I'm kind of disappointed that the ejected cases don't do a tiny bit of damage when they land on you.
And it really would hurt. Like, it's kind of hypnotic watching them eject. Now, the cartridge cases or shell cases on the portable version were a bit of a weird shape and proportion. The fixed gun they look more like standard sort of 40 mil ish. It might be a bit big. No, more like 2-pounder shells, aren't they? And I'm sure some of you have guessed, reminds me of the Origin 12. Big, square, slow firing, very similar silhouette to this. Very industrial looking gun, especially the buttstock. That looks to be like a fixed girder kind of buttstock on there. Almost looks a bit of an afterthought compared to the rest of the design. The Origin 12 uses an M4-esque buffer tube, even though it doesn't need it. So I would imagine inspired by this, but it's by no means a copy of it. Definite kind of Warhammer vibe as well. 40k Bolter-esque.
I actually just looked behind me to see if I had a bolter on a model. I could hold up the camera, but I don't think I do.
I think it fits the bill, doesn't it?
This is the same weapon system, but incendiary.
Oh, okay. So we've somehow got an incendiary fuel tank and a magazine for shotgun shells. Not usually how incendiary works. We don't normally dip our slugs in Bernie stuff and send them out of the gun. Incendiary effect is baked into the projectile.
Strictly visually speaking, I think it might be the best looking, like, Dragon's Breath-esque round I've seen in a video game.
And the way that you get splashback or bounce when they hit stuff is very cool. Almost a sort of white phosphorus particle effect, even more so than actual Dragon's Breath has. So I can kind of buy that this is a weaponized, militarized form of Dragon's Breath. As much as my brain rebels against the idea of a combined shotgun flamethrower, which is clearly the concept for this, it's almost like someone took Ripley's pulse rifle and flamethrower that she taped together in Aliens and just went, one gun, please. And then we're going to, for health and safety reasons, make it bright orange. Kind of like it. Las, as in lasgun, presumably. I like the look of it. Oh, yes. Yes, do like a phaser-style beam weapon.
This is a heat-based weapon, and it has heat sinks that you can replace. Depending on the planet you're on and the planet's temperature, that heat sink can last longer.
Okay.
If it's freezing cold, you can hold the trigger down much longer.
That does make some sense. Ambient temperature does affect even conventional firearm ammunition. As anyone that's served in the military will almost certainly have observed, the gun will overheat quicker, and you'll head toward that cook-off temperature, and that damage to the polymer of the receiver, all of that is exacerbated by ambient temperature to some extent. And with a super hot weapon like this, that can only be worse. So that's stuff that's got some basis in reality that's then played with for gameplay and fun reasons is always the best, I think. Now, what do we have here?
This is the Railgun.
It does look like it could be a railgun with a pair of opposing electromagnetic rails rather than a series of coils. Calls back to, it makes me think of a Razor, the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie. We've got a charge up there. Is it possible to release it before it's fully charged?
It's hard limited unless you actively set it to unsafe mode, in which case if you overcharge it...
Wow, perfect timing there. If the bar reaches the top, you're toast, is that right? I like the idea of having to remove the safety limit. Here we go again. I think railguns, Gauss guns, coil guns, as and when they become available, if they ever do, are probably going to be a bit less interesting than the ones we see in fiction. I think they'll just make a noise and not much will move. You'll still need some sort of feed system, of course. Yeah, I'm not sure about stuff popping out and spinning around and all the stuff that we see in games.
Reloading!
Okay, a very sci-fi, conventional, over and under, skeet shooting 12-gauge shotgun, but in space.
There's some quite interesting context to the double barrel shotgun because it's not a weapon that you can take with you, it's a weapon you find.
Oh.
Unlike the frontier planets of Super Earth extending its borders, it's the weapon of these space frontiersmen, but you can pick it up from these abandoned outposts that humans are no longer occupying.
I think that makes a surprising amount of sense, actually. Why wouldn't we still have, for non-military purposes, as you say, a futuristic double barrel shotgun? The break open aspect, again, it's been that way for 100+ years, 150 years-ish, for a reason. It works, it's simple, it's reliable, it's cheap. We have a bewildering array of different shotgun actions from the late 19th century when they were essentially trying to arrive at this system. So I'm a big fan of this. It's very contextual. It's a very nice design that allows you to have a gun that all the players are going to want to have.
Bag's empty!
Whoa, okay. Very reminiscent of the Bolter-esque shotgun from earlier. Same aesthetics, same buttstock, I think, but some massive rounds.
The description says that the Jar 5 Dominator fires jet-propelled rounds, which instantly made me think of the gyrojet that we've talked about before.
Okay, I'm not seeing that. I'm not sure in what way those are rocket or jet propelled.
Watching it in slow motion, it does look like a round is fired, and then a little distance away you can see propulsion begin in a trail.
So I think they really are lifting from the 40k thing there. The size of them means there's quite an explosion when they impact as well.
If it hits armor, it just sort of blasts over the armor, but if you hit a squishy bit, the round goes in and then detonates on the inside of the bug.
Adjustable fusing of rounds is something that's been worked on quite a bit. The ill-fated XM25, which is due a comeback, I gather. The idea there was that you could choose when that round would explode. Would it go through a door before it blows up? Would it go over the head of the enemy and explode over their heads? It's always good when it's not just the same impact from every weapon in a game. You're just taking hit points off an object. You're not usually seeing much in the way of a different effect. To see stuff bounce off or just dent armor or something, and then if it hits something softer to actually do significant damage, always good to see.
Nothing in the chamber.
Bit of a John Wick flick there. It reminds me of the Halo Magnum, but mechanically it's fairly conventional pistol. Almost looks like just 9mm rounds. Thumb hole stocks on rifles and machine guns, and knuckle bow trigger guards on pistols. You know you're in the future. It's a sort of design language thing. I'm not seeing what he's actually doing with the one-handed reload. Is he putting the gun on top of a presented magazine on his belt?
It looks like it, and you can see when he brings it back up, he's like racking the slide with one hand.
That's what it looks like. Very much taken from modern tactical behavior with a riot shield down to the cant of the pistol and lets you potentially see through a viewport through your sights. Okay, what on earth is this? Oh, it is like a Quake lightning gun.
Quake lightning gun that makes bugs explode.
Yeah, well, if you can hit something with actual lightning, it may not explode, but they're not going to enjoy it. But yeah, definite chain lightning in gun form. Not the first time that's been done, but it's quite distinctive to look at. It's interesting as well with those sort of electrode prong things on the front. It's like you've got the Star Trek phaser weapon, which is the same color as a phaser beam, and then you've got a version of a lightning gun, and they're visually distinctive. They do seem to work differently, so good.
We're really getting some sci-fi references in today, aren't we?
Yeah.
Another step towards galactic liberation.
Right, so here I just wanted to show off the Mortar Sentry. You can see the mortar round being fed through like a mechanical arm and dropped down the tube.
Which is kind of, it's very cool, and I love that they've done it, but it's extremely silly. You'd have a scaled up grenade machine gun type weapon. You wouldn't make a mechanically crew serve muzzle loading mortar. That's a bit silly. But extremely cool, don't get me wrong. One reason we still use muzzle loading mortars is how easy it is to adjust range with an additional charge clipped onto the base. I guess that's the justification, is that they still want to be able to vary the range, although it doesn't look like you are able to vary range.
It just sort of adapts.
Okay, let's say that the AI running it clips on invisible additional charges or tweaks the amount of propellant. I mean, in reality, I think you just have different magazines and it would feed from each magazine depending on range. Don't know. Interesting to think about.
Democracy has been well delivered. May your extraction be swift.
So you have a huge, great missile silo in the ground. Oh yes, there's no missing that one. Oh, and there's the shockwave.
It's a rule within our group that you have to salute as the missile detonates as well.
That's very impressive. That looks a lot like the nuclear test footage that I'm sure a lot of people have seen. It seems to have impacted very close range. I'm not sure how survivable that would be, but I guess the actual mushroom cloud is significantly far away, and you're just getting the edge of the blast wave. The radiological effects would be concerning. I mean, we have some sort of spacesuit thing, so we have no nuclear weapons. We don't do air-launched, air-dropped munitions, and that includes self-propelled things like ICBMs. There is a nuclear system, I think, most of a system, at Imperial War Museum, Duxford, if anyone's interested. Okay, guys. Well, you asked for it, and if you didn't, you got it anyway. More guns from Helldivers 2. Quite cool range of stuff on display there, I have to admit. Thank you for watching as always. Do check out our Royal Armouries channel here on YouTube, our website, social media. Until the end of June, we have a display of decorated firearms, some gold-plated Kalashnikov to Imperial Russian flintlock musket. Do check that out if you can. But we'll see you here, as always, next week.